Hello, welcome to another edition of IMOBastani with me, Aaron Bastani, at Aaron Bastani on Twitter. As ever, thank you so much for watching. This week I want to talk about the Secretary of State for Health, Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy Hunt, that's his name, Jeremy Hunt. Why do I want to do that? Well, of course, I'm sure many of you are aware of an ongoing dispute between primarily junior doctors and Mr. Hunt, Right Honourable Hunt. He's trying to push through a wave of reforms in coalition with various top dogs, various chief execs of these organising bodies which now fundamentally actually govern the NHS, right? It's actually not him anymore, it's them. But in coalition with them, they're trying to push through these reforms, primarily affecting junior doctors, which junior doctors say is decimating morale and could lead potentially to mass resignations. If you would like to know more about that ongoing dispute, there's an outstanding piece by Nick Carpenter on it at Navarro Wire. It's called Not Fair, Not Safe. 6 reasons junior doctors are preparing to strike. Go check that out now at Navarro Wire. So who is Jeremy Hunt? Well, if the name sounds familiar, it's because he was doing some quite suspect things as recently as 2011. He was Secretary of State for Culture. Jeremy Hunt was given the quasi-judicial power to oversee the takeover between B-Sky-B and News International, i.e. Rupert Murdoch. He chose not to refer the takeover to the Competition Authority, even though a lot of people, including myself, were looking at this and saying, this really does create a kind of big asymmetry in British culture, British media, a huge concentration of power. Probably isn't good if you want a free media, a free press. Hacking scandal transpires. Takeover obviously collapses. Fantastic, right? The Sun's the news of the world went the same way, collapsed, now replaced, of course, by the Sun on Sunday. Leveson inquiry then takes place after that. What does it find? It finds actually Jeremy Hunt's people, his SPADs, his special advisors, have been having conversations with very top people at News International and B-Sky-B, and that Jeremy Hunt himself had been having private communications with James Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's son. So there was more than meets the eye to the whole thing, very suspect, very dodgy. Fast forward 5 years, he's no longer the Secretary of State for Culture, he's now Secretary of State for Health. But apart from cozying up to the Murdochs, being a general enemy of the free media, being one of the more disreputable, dislikable, smarmy, pencil-neck members of the coalition, now the Tory cabinets, he's also an aristocrat. Bear with me, I know you think I might be making this overly personal, I'm not. This is really quite significant. So Hunt is the 29th great-grandson of King Henry I. He's the 4th cousin once removed of Elizabeth II, present Queen, the 5th cousin once removed of famous fascist and fellow pencil-neck Sir Oswald Mosley. He went to Charterhouse School before becoming involved in Conservative politics while at Oxford, where he was a contemporary of, guess who? Boris Johnson and David Cameron. So he took over from his predecessor Andrew Lanty in 2012. And that year Hunt, at Tory party conference, really tried to play up, his credentials as a champion of the NHS by saying his father had been a manager in the NHS and that, he was carrying on this family tradition of care, public service and general consideration for Britain's most loved public institution. But that was something of a deception, wasn't it, Jeremy? Because you were bullshitting. Your dad wasn't a manager in the NHS for most of his career. In fact, he was when he retired. He worked in that sector, but previously he'd been an admiral in the Royal Navy. I mean, you don't get more plummy and more posh than an admiral in the British Navy, do you? Anyway, to facts. Papa Hunt, subsequent to being an admiral of the fleet in his main career and once retired, became a top Quangoista. Now, what's a Quangoista? Something that works in a Quango. What's a Quango? It's a quasi-autonomous, non-governmental organisation. In Britain, this tends to mean jobs for the boys. Now, bear this in mind, okay? And Tories love to say, we've got too many Quangos, too much bureaucracy. And the second they're offered a job in a Quango, guess what? They're all ears, they're opening up the wallet, they're saying, here are my bank details, I'll start next Monday. Papa Hunt, admiral of the fleet in his main career, Quangoista par excellence once he'd retired, the guy's still making money, still bringing it in. I mean, fair play in a sense, right? Became chairman of the South West Surrey District Health Authority from 1990 to 1995, and then chairman of, wait for it, Nuffield Hospitals from 1996 to 2001. But wait, that rings some bells. Health, South West Surrey, Nuffield, Health, South West Surrey. Wasn't Virginia Bottomley the MP for South West Surrey while also being the Conservative Secretary of State for Health? But wait, wasn't Virginia Bottomley MP Jeremy Hunt's father's niece and therefore Jeremy Hunt's cousin? But wait, isn't Jeremy Hunt now MP for South West Surrey didn't he replace his cousin, Virginia Bottomley? Do you think maybe nepotism comes into it? It is actually unbelievable that two cousins can both be Secretary of State for Health and have the same fucking constituency. Aaron, it doesn't matter about his money or his background or his education or his class. Stop being so bitter. It doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. And after all, Jeremy Hunt was a successful businessman before becoming an MP. Businessman. They say it with the Z's rather than the S's, don't they, these people? Because, he had hot courses and they were a supplier, almost a monopoly supplier to the British Council. So he'd made his money before becoming an MP. He'd done very well. Okay, he was well educated, or as I like to say, educated well, or expensively, but he'd also made money off his own back. Well, hold on 1 second. You just said it. British Council. That's where he made his money. They were a monopoly supplier, hot courses. It's the British Council. Guess who was a vice chair of the British Council? 1998 to 2001. Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess. The prior MP for South West Surrey. Yeah. One of his predecessors in the role of Secretary of State for Health. Presumably the woman who gave his father a job with a quango before joining Nuffield Hospitals. That's right. It was Virginia Bottomley. She was a vice chair there when he got the contract. Hot courses of the British Council. Do you think that's a bit more back scratching by one useless toff for another? This is the details. These are literally unbelievable, this stuff. This is literally unbelievable. Then Virginia Bottomley, Jeremy Hunt's cousin, and because of course Britain's a meritocracy, became a life peer in the House of Lords. She became Baroness Bottomley of Nettleston, bit of a mouthful. So she moved to the House of Lords in 2005, and lo and behold, her cousin, young Jeremy, you can just imagine the old man, can't you? The old admiral with a bit of port over Christmas, slapping his son's ass. Jeremy, get him in the Commons as soon as bloody possible. Virginia, move your arse into the Lords. Virginia has become Baroness Bottomley of Nettleston. Young Jeremy's replaced her as the MP for South West Surrey. Now, if you read the history books before the Great Reform Act, there used to be things called rotten boroughs, right? And these were almost handed down as heirlooms between sort of the local big landowner or big farmer or whatever, given to their sons, invariably it was always the sons, right? As kind of like an heirloom, now people give like rings or watches to their kids. They used to give them constituency seats. That's kind of what this looks like, right? South West Surrey is a family heirloom, and it's gone from Virginia Bottomley to her cousin Jeremy Hunt, right? And I want to re-articulate, go back a bit here, right? Jeremy Hunt wouldn't even have had a profitable business without Virginia Bottomley being at the British Council, being a vice chair, whilst he was given basically a monopoly contract at hot courses, did a crappy job from all accounts for 5 years, and that's the way he made his money, right? And then he's given this family heirloom, so this guy's not worked for anything in his life, it seems. I mean, I'm happy to go on the record and say that. If his people want to come to me and email me or whatever, fine. The guy seems to me like a useless bum. Without these connections, without these networks, the guy would have had nothing. So what does Baroness Nettleston, Jeremy's cousin, the former MP for South West Surrey, the cousin now of the Secretary of State for Health, what does she do? Well, she's actually got a directorship at Bupa, right? I wonder how she got that. Maybe it was you might recall Hunt's father worked there after being an admiral. Maybe he scratched some people's backs, and then she's now got a directorship at Bupa. She lobbies on the behalf of private healthcare providers in the Lords. Okay, she is the cousin of the present Secretary of State for Health today. Yeah, he's saying I'm impartial about all this stuff, despite both my father and my cousin working for Bupa, and my cousin also being a previous Secretary of State for Health. It's unbelievable. It's not believable, is it, right? And do you know where I see Jeremy Hunt in 10, 20 years' time? I would almost put money on this. He'll be working for Bupa. I'll put money on it. I will put money on it today. Get your money out. Let's do this. Why is Hunt pushing through these reforms onto the NHS? Nobody wants them. 50,000 junior doctors don't want them. He's saying it's because we need a 7-day NHS. I mean, I'm sure many of you probably all of you have used the NHS, almost certainly at the weekend. I certainly have. And the hospital looked like it was open to me. What he means by a 7-day NHS is that you can have non-elective surgeries done at the weekend, right? So the really sort of lightweight, undramatic, cheap-ish stuff. So it's these kinds of procedures, non-urgent elective surgeries, through which a lot of the privatisation of the NHS is being done, right through the back door. And I know there's lots of people out there who say, the NHS isn't being privatised. I can still go to A&E on my GP. It doesn't cost anything. How is it being privatised? Well, here's a statistic for those people. John Lister of Health Emergencies estimated the private sector is now delivering 18% of elective surgery. Elective non-urgent clinics. That's what the government now wants to put at the weekend. It's almost like they want these nice, easy, low-cost, lightweight, non-urgent, elective procedures to be done at the weekend rather than weekdays. Why is that? Given 18% of them already been privatised, I think it's fair to say that a gentleman like Jeremy Hunt, whose father's worked in Nuffield, whose cousin has a directorship at Bupa, I think it's fair to say that he would probably like to see it much higher than 18%, right? Maybe 50, maybe even 100% private. I think that's the ambition. And this process of privatisation through the back door with non-urgent elective stuff, it's there if you really want to see what's going on, right? It's just obvious that this is happening. The privatisation through the back door is happening. The whole of children's services in Wiltshire have just been sold off to Virgin. Sittingbourne in Kent, the same. I think all of Devon, the same. So there's a process at work here, right, which is this. It's very easy to privatise low-cost, non-complex, non-urgent, elective stuff into the private sector. It's very profitable, it's very easy. It's easy peasy, right? You've had a health issue and then somebody's sold it very quickly, or, you know, that's great, right? But some people have health issues that go on 10, 15, 20 years. Very difficult to manage, very difficult to solve. Not just physical health, also mental health, right? That's the stuff the private sector doesn't want. They don't want that stuff. So what the government is doing is it's compartmentalising the easier stuff, which the private sector will want, right? So it's giving all the juicy stuff to them. Meanwhile, the taxpayers burdened with the most costly, most complex care for the general public. Not burdened, the public should be paying for it, but you know what I'm saying, right? There's a profitable bit of it, and that's where the private sector's getting, right? They're getting that, and this whole weekend thing, the 7-day NHS thing, that's all part of that. What you do is you fill up weekends with non-urgent elective procedures, very low cost, easy, uncomplex, you know, that's what you do, and then you shift them wholesale to the private sector. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. Yes, it's about keeping down the pay of, you know, medical professionals, as of course the Tories would love to do throughout every public sector in the country, throughout the whole public sector in the country. But it's also about really creating an ecology now where privatising particular parts of healthcare provision will be easier than ever. I'll finish by quoting Jeremy Hunt in his own words in something he wrote for Douglas Carswell, UKIP's sole MP now. At the time he was in the Conservative Party, one of Hunt's confederates and the Conservatives. The book's called Direct Democracy, an Agenda for a New Model Party. Here is Jeremy Hunt's contribution. Our ambition, I quote, should be to break down the barriers between private and public provision. In effect, denationalising the provision of healthcare in Britain, so extending to all the choices currently available only to the minority who opt for private provision. But this privatisation and outsourcing process isn't about improving healthcare outcomes. Nobody's asked for these things. It's about expediting the interests of private healthcare providers as quickly as possible, as easily as possible, by getting all of these easy, very profitable procedures put on 2 particular days, very easy to sell off. That's what this is all about. This is not about improving the quality of the NHS. It never has been. Privatisation, outsourcing, it's never been about that. It's been about pressing down pay of people working in the organisation. It's about making money for private healthcare providers beyond it. Don't forget that.